Greetings, everyone. In this lesson, I want to talk about innovations. More specifically, we're going to talk about how radical innovations can potentially affect supply chain strategy and overall supply chain performance. Let's start by looking at a few historical innovations, like the barcode. If you recall, prior to having barcode technology and highly integrated point-of-sale data systems, retailers often relied on old cash registers that simply totaled your bill. No one had a meaningful understanding of how many units of inventory were selling, how many units of inventory were on hand, or how many units of inventory were actually needed. Critical information was not readily available or accurate, and these deficiencies caused all kinds of supply chain problems. However, once barcode innovations proliferated, supply chains leveraged point-of-sale information to drive down costs, improve service, and reduce adverse bullwhip effects. This innovation has enabled supply chains to replace billions of dollars of inventory with timely and precise information. Some people say the barcode is the most impactful supply chain innovation of all time. Others suggest that the shipping container is the most significant supply chain innovation ever designed. Prior to developing a standardized shipping container, loading and unloading ocean vessels was a very manual, time-intensive, and inefficient process. Stevedores had to either physically carry products onto the vessel or use cumbersome cargo nets and pulley systems. However, these operations were dramatically altered when Malcolm McLean decided to remove the wheels and chassis from standard truck trailers and use these containers for ocean shipments. Once arriving at a destination port, the containers could then be reattached to a tractor-trailer trucking operation for final delivery. By developing a standardized shipping container, dock worker operations became much more efficient, like over a 90% cost reduction, and intermodal transportation became a more reliable and cost-effective option. Without the shipping container innovation, modern global supply chains simply would not exist. So like barcodes, containers changed the world, but there are other potential innovations on the horizon that could have a similar impact. There are some innovations in the works that futurists predict could change supply chains forever. Let's look at a few. 3D printing technology already exists, and it's used in some specialized applications. However, there are some who say that 3D printing will have a much broader impact as the technology improves and becomes more readily available. Futurists describe a time when every home has a 3D printer that produces everything that we need or want. From entire homes and cars to food and clothes, these items will all be printed on demand. Likewise, hospitals will be able to print customized medical devices or even organ transplants. Now, I don't know how immediately feasible some of these 3D printing applications are, but I can think through the supply chain implications if they do come to fruition. The majority of manufacturing and distribution networks would become obsolete. Transportation requirements would be drastically reduced, and inventory carrying costs would approach zero. Instantaneous, just-in-time demand fulfillment would become a reality. Big data is another innovation that will potentially have radical implications for supply chain management. Big data and predictive analytics are already here, but they continue to increase in scope and impact. As computational power constantly grows and data availability continues to proliferate, data scientists are able to get better and better at predicting future events before they happen. Some companies are getting so good at this that they now ship products to customers before they even receive a firm order because they can predict usage patterns. Imagine a future where everything you need or want shows up delivered just as you need or want it. This will enable supply chain managers to plan and optimize in an efficient manner rather than react in a costly manner to events that can impact supplier demand patterns. That's powerful stuff. The area of robotics also has potential to be a radical innovation for supply chain management. Basic robots have been around for a while now. They've enabled manufacturers to complete the same task over and over again in a very efficient and effective manner. However, these gains often come with a trade-off in terms of flexibility. Traditional robots perform one task very, very well, but they're unable to do anything else, and that can cause problems when inevitable changes occur in a supply chain environment. The next generation of robots are smarter and more flexible, but still have some limitations. But exoskeletons are now being developed to combine the physical advantages of a robot with the judgment advantages of a human. These exoskeletons may enable the same types of efficiency gains that we have historically seen with basic robots, but also enable operations managers to perform a much wider range of tasks. Now, I don't know if the technology is there yet to get us to anything like we saw in Avatar, The Matrix, or Aliens, but you can certainly see the potential. Drone deliveries also continue to garner headlines as numerous companies try to master last-mile delivery in a supply chain. Futurists say there will come a time when we no longer need to pick up products at a retail store because everyone will have everything delivered to them by a drone. In certain applications, such as delivering life-saving medical supplies in hard-to-reach disaster areas, the technology is already being used. However, I just don't see how the numbers will ever work out for broad-scale adoption of this technology in our everyday lives. But it surely would revolutionize our personal shopping experiences and supply chain management as we know it. Autonomous vehicles are already in the works, and they can certainly bring innovation to supply chain management. We continue to see headlines about successful and unsuccessful tests of this innovative technology. Although I cringe to think through the liabilities, responsibilities, and ethical dilemmas involved with driverless trucks, I also acknowledge that this technology could address the growing driver shortage and driver turnover problems that plague the transportation industry. If we don't do something soon, we will have a transportation crisis that leads to large price increases and eventual gridlock. So I hope to crack the code on this innovation soon. And finally, smart home technologies may produce radical innovations for supply chain management as the technology continues to advance and gain wider adoption. Smart homes have moved beyond what I call the universal remote features that allow you to turn on the lights or unlock your door remotely with your smartphone. Now, advanced smart home technologies track demand patterns and coordinate needed shipments with suppliers or retailers. In a way, they've become your own personal inventory manager. For example, technologies now exist to monitor your heating and air conditioning system and determine when you need a new air filter. The system then automatically places an order for a replacement filter and has it delivered to your home just as you need it. You don't have to do a thing. The same type of technology is available for major appliances, groceries, even your coffee maker. Pretty neat stuff. So all these innovations sound neat, but why should we care about them from a supply chain strategy perspective? The answer is quite simple. When you move beyond the cool factor, all of these innovations have the potential to reduce demand uncertainty or reduce supply uncertainty, or hopefully both. We already know that these two dimensions of uncertainty are the foundation of supply chain management and strategy selection. By reducing supply uncertainty or reducing demand uncertainty, that will enable us to transition from one type of supply chain strategy to another. Radical innovations also potentially enable supply chains to do things better, cheaper, and faster. That is why supply chains exist, to provide customers with the products that they want or need in a better, cheaper, and faster way. Perhaps one day, we'll all have chips embedded in our brains to telepathically communicate demand signals to suppliers, who then instantaneously deliver goods through teleportation. But until then, we probably need to keep focusing on supply chain strategies that help us manage uncertainties in the most efficient and effective way possible.